We did talk about leaks last week, Nintendo leaks, and then this week we've also found out that there's further leaks. So often referred to as a Gigaleak. So last time it was really more about Super Nintendo. This time it seems about Nintendo 64. And there are actual rumors that there's further things to come out very shortly, actually. And it just seems like someone's sitting on a treasure trove of information. And again, we didn't mention it last week, but I would probably mention it every single time something like this comes up. We certainly don't condone this and definitely don't encourage it. And I actually think if anyone does have this information, they shouldn't share it. But it is out there now, and that is in the public. And there was some really, really interesting stuff that came out. And was there anything that really caught your eye, Swinny?
So definitely, I mean, the big one that this week that a lot of people talked about is Luigi in Super Mario 64. And
Luigi is real.
Yeah, I remember, like in that booze courtyard, there's the statue with the engraving. Everyone's like, oh, L is something, what can we do to unlock Luigi? All these gaming myths. And it's good to know finally that he was there. There's no way to get him, but people have been able to actually replace him and into the game because they've got access to the source code as well, which is insane. And they're actually running around as Luigi in his Super Mario 64 model around Mario 64. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and like on that, and like, look, this kind of stuff is so full of misinformation. It's just incredible. Like the amount of stuff out there that's not correct on it. Just on the Luigi stuff, and just for everyone who's listening, I'd actually encourage people to jump on Modern Vintage Gamer, so MVG. There's a really good YouTuber, and he covers a lot of modding stuff, and he has really, really great videos on this, and I'm sure he's going to publish a lot in the future, because this is right in his wheelhouse. And, he had a really good point, and I agree, and I sort of, had thought about it as well around the Luigi stuff, because people are kind of now describing it as Luigi is in Mario 64, which is not correct at all. So, like, if you're looking at the Mario 64 that we got, Luigi is not on there. You know what I mean? It's not like Luigi's buried in the code or buried in the ROM or buried in a file on that game or anything like that. He was, there was a model, and they've recreated the model, which is really sick, but the actual thing was never coded in. Like, it was never incorporated in the code. There was no make files to be able to, compile that. So I think it's a bit disingenuous that people are saying, he was in the game. He certainly was, and let's be real. Shigeru Miyamoto, all the way back to like 96, I think it was, or 95, actually said that they were experimenting about putting Luigi in the game. So it's not like this was unknown information, but yeah, seeing the model itself is really, really cool.
And you'd be great at, at parties like this. Like, seriously, do you have to split hairs on this stuff? They found the model that was designed for Mario 64. Let people have that. Bloody hell.
I'm not taking it away.
Yeah, okay. So some other stuff. There's, we've obviously Ura Zelda we've known about for a while, which was, I believe, was that was the one that was meant to be delivered via satellite. It was like an upgraded version, I believe, of Zelda.
I thought it was 64DD.
No, so I believe 64DD was a different version.
Really?
That was my understanding. So Ura Zelda is not the 64DD. I believe it was a different version. I could be wrong on that.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, like, there's some prototype, I guess.
No, you are wrong. I just checked it. It goes, Ura Zelda was a Nintendo 64 disc drive expansion.
So that was the
designed
DD, okay.
Ocarina of Time.
So maybe okay, all right. So, yep, I'm cool to be wrong every now and then. It happens.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. But yeah, go on.
So some other cool stuff.
But wait, can we pause a second? Because I always hear about Ura Zelda, and I never really know what it is.
Well,
it's just like an expanded version of Ocarina of Time, right?
Correct.
Like more dungeons or something, yeah.
Yeah, so it was just, they had extra, I guess, memory to work with, or whatever the 64DD was doing. So they thought they'd do an upgraded version, and with the fact that the 64DD didn't have a long lifespan, they obviously canned it after the first bunch of titles they released in Japan. But, I mean, we got essentially, like a bunch of weird characters that came out of it that have shown up in Smash Brothers trophies and things like that. So,
Mm.
but some other cool stuff. They've apparently, I don't know where they got this from, but there's some clear audio of Lylat Wars voice lines.
Oh, this was so crazy.
Yeah, and to I guess, PAL territories, that's Star Fox 64. So specifically the classic dual barrel line from Peppy Hare. So that's really cool. But there's also a bunch of other audio stuff that they found, such as some of the voice actors from Mario and Peach saying potential different Mario Advance lines. So I can't remember the
Oh.
exact title. I think it was Super Mario Advance Mario 2 or something like that.
Oh, can't you get it straight? Mario Advance being Super Mario Brothers 2 and Mario Advance 2 being Super Mario 4, Super Mario World, or whatever it is.
It's insane. But
It's
hey,
the most ridiculous,
I
convoluted.
played Super Mario Advance heaps when they put it out, so it was good. I think it was good for them to start Mario 2 anyway. But yeah, saying different versions of that. There's a bunch of weird stuff though. Like there's some cool unused art, or early art sprites for Mario with wings in Mario World and Luigi flipping the bird, or like using his middle finger at least, and like Yoshi, early potential versions of Yoshi, and just some weird
Yeah,
stuff.
they were
But
cool.
one of the weirdest things for me was the fact that they found what is very clearly meant to be Beavis from Beavis and Butthead in F-Zero X, which is like,
So I didn't know about this.
it's the
So I
weirdest
only knew
thing.
this when you called it out. Yeah.
And it's like, who else could it be? Like, it looks exactly like Beavis. But there's some weird stuff. Like, even there's like that weird balcony graphic. It's like 2D isometric with a whole bunch of Mario characters. Toad is like smoking. Mario's naked. It's just super weird. When I say Mario's naked, there's a balcony in front of him, but you know, no one knows what that was used for. And assuming it's real, I'm guessing it's probably, if it's not for a game, then it's probably for like a magazine graphic or something like Famitsu or Nintendo Power or something like that. But just
Mm.
some really weird stuff. But it's kind of cool. But there's definitely a part of me that I didn't actually look up a lot of this stuff. It was hard to avoid the Luigi stuff, but I didn't go out of my way to
Yes.
look at any of this until I realized that, hey, we should talk about this on the podcast. So for
Yeah.
me, there's an element, and it's the same with the YouTube channels like your Beta 64 and things like that, where I kind of don't want to know how the sausage is made sometimes. You know,
Yeah. Yeah. I get you. Yeah. Yeah. I'm kind of like a little bit different. Like, I just feel like, the whole point of the art form is you do a lot of work. And it's that analogy of like a duck on water. Like, there's a lot of stuff that goes underneath the surface, but you just want a smooth thing on the top. And I feel like, a lot of this production stuff, where they're working on things and experimenting with ideas, it's not actually, the reason why it doesn't get out there is because it's to them not their best work, you know? So they don't actually really want people to see it or listen to it or play it or do all those kinds of things because they're like, oh, you know what, we don't actually think it's good, or it's just a prototype or a vertical slice we put together. And I don't know, it feels like, if I was creating this stuff, I'd be a bit annoyed because it's like, well, there's a reason why it wasn't in the game because we didn't like it, and it kind of maybe tarnishes or, has a weird perspective on what you're doing and, how people have received it. I don't know. It's not something I would hunt out and encourage, but it is really crazy seeing some of the stuff. And there's like other stuff that we probably won't go into, but again, because it's coming directly from their corporate network or something like that, it has all the really random stuff that you see normally, like on a corporate network, and including inappropriate things that have unfortunately been included in the archive.
yeah, and I will say probably my favorite thing actually is just because I'm such a huge fan of the game, but with Yoshi's Island, we mentioned last week that there's prototype versions of that, but there's some sprite assets showing. If anyone remembers, Yoshi's Island has almost like a crayon style art style,
Mm,
and around a lot of the terrain, there's really thick black lines, and
mm,
they have like a sprite sheet that has that, and then a sprite sheet where it has just like 1 pixel lines, almost like close to the Super Mario World or something like that. And it just goes to show that, like how such a like them going out on a limb, because honestly, like it was risky to kind of experiment with an art style, especially that early on. They do it all the time now,
Mm.
but it just goes to show that the process where you're like, well, rather than be conventional, let's try something different, and that's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And, I think there's some conflation in this Gigaleak where people are sort of going, oh, now that they have the source code for Mario 64, we could do whatever we want with it. And the actual reality is a lot of the files are just empty. So it sort of says that's the file, but it doesn't have any data. So a lot of the games you can't reconstruct anyway. And there's already been a lot of work, especially on Mario 64 recently. There was a decompilation program. So basically, it's taking the ROM and they've worked out a way to reverse engineer it and basically come up with the source code independently. And then they've actually ported that to PC. And then just over the last few days, they've actually ported it to the 3DS. And I think that kind of stuff is really cool. And like the work you need to do for that to reverse engineer it, it's all actually, work that they're doing without this information. So like one part of it for me is like, I just hope it doesn't threaten those type of projects where it's actually people being creative and trying to do this really hard endeavor rather than just stealing the information and getting a leg up that way.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where the legal stuff lands on this, because I mean
Mm.
it's out there. You kind of can't stop the floodgates now, but there's definitely investigations being made about how this happened, and I reckon there'll be hell to pay for certain people if they can discover
Oh
it.
yeah. Yeah, definitely.